Smith is here, bricklayer from Manchester, who's part of the Insulate Britain campaign. Good afternoon to you, Joshua.
Hello, how you doing?
Did you expect them to be jailed?
I did, yes. I did expect them to be jailed. It's still a bit of a shock, though, to be honest, to actually hear them get sentenced.
And what will it mean for the campaign of activities?
So say that again, please.
What will it mean for your group? Will you carry on campaigning?
Yes, we are going to continue campaigning. We're expecting to go to prison anyway to really basically point out the hypocrisy of the UK government, who really should be getting on with insulating the homes of the United Kingdom, but they'd rather jail peaceful protesters than do that.
Peaceful maybe, but disruptive and dangerous, says Grant Shapps. Do you accept it is disruptive and dangerous?
Yeah, it is disruptive and dangerous, but the thing is we've been left without a choice. See, every other option has been tried. There's been peaceful demonstrations outside Parliament, there's been letters to MPs, petitions written. Everyone knows that the government doesn't give a damn about those kinds of things, and they just ignore it whenever they can. So we've had to do something that the government can't ignore.
So is being jailed now part of the campaign almost, that you want it, people will notice lots and lots of ordinary people being jailed about having our homes insulated? It does seem a bit odd, doesn't it?
Well, when you say it like that, with the homes being insulated, it seems like a small thing. But with the climate crisis and with Sir David King has said, we have got 3 to 4 years to determine the future of humanity. And what we do in the next few years is really what's going to count. So insulating the homes of the UK, like you just said a minute ago, is the first thing that we need to do. It's one of the first things that needs to be done.
Well, I mean, that's just a fact, isn't it? That in many cases, the technology that's being spoken about won't be worth putting in unless you've got an insulated home to start with.
Yeah, exactly. So the government are talking about heat pumps right now, and that won't be really worth anything unless we insulate the homes of the UK. So it's the first thing that needs to be done. Can I ask you a question? Do you know when Sir David King says 3 to 4 years to determine the future of humanity, what do you think he means by that?
Well, I don't think he means the world's going to end in 4 years.
No, the world isn't going to end in 4 years.
What do you think he means by it?
No, I don't think the world's going to end in 4 years. But what I do understand is we are 3 to 4 years away from setting off irreversible chain reactions that will be outside of human control. Doesn't mean the world's going to end in 4 years. It just means there's going to be a point of no return.
And to the question of almost factoring in imprisonment into your form of protest now, how long would you be prepared to go to jail for?
Personally, as long as it takes. I mean, the people in Insulate Britain are doing this out of despair. They're doing it out of despair because they've learned the science behind the climate crisis, and it is unbelievably bad, like worse than you could possibly imagine. And they want to do whatever they can to try and help the situation. So going to prison isn't really a big deal to people compared to starvation of potentially billions of people in the next century.
But I'm looking at your individual life for a minute.
Yep.
I mean, how old are you? 20s, 30s?
I'm 28.
28, right. So if you were going to spend the rest of your 20s in jail, that would be okay with you?
No, not really. I would much rather be doing other things. I'd much rather,
But you're prepared to go to jail repeatedly for this?
The thing is, right, in a couple of decades from now, when there's food shortages and there's no food in the shelves of Tesco, no chips at McDonald's, and people are starving, I will have no regrets for spending a few years in jail, for trying to do everything I possibly could to change the situation. And to be honest, in a few decades from now, when things are getting really bad, if you look at the IPCC report, the United Nations, if things are getting really bad, I don't think I'd be able to live with myself if I didn't try everything within my power to...
And what do your parents and your family and friends say to you about being jailed?
They feel like I'm potentially throwing my life away, and they agree the situation is beyond bad, but they feel as if...
it's too much to ask.
It's too much for me to solve, and they agree with what I'm doing. They just wish that there was somebody else who was doing it and not the son.
Has the group talked about other ways to protest effectively without breaking these laws, these injunctions?
See, I said this before, we have tried everything else. So the climate movement has been trying for the last 30 years to get change. They've been doing marches and peaceful demonstrations and letters to MPs, and all of it gets ignored. So, for example, in August, there was 10,000 people outside Parliament protesting, and I bet none of your listeners even heard about that. But I'll tell you, all of your listeners have heard about Insulate Britain, haven't they? So just look what 100 people have achieved. Because
you were so annoying. Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean that literally, not about you personally.
Yeah, it was annoying, right? But yeah. at the end of the day, 10,000 people outside Parliament gets ignored. Nobody hears about it. 100 people
stopping you get to work,
and it grabs the entire country's attention.
Do you have any qualms about getting in people's way when I don't know?
Yes, I do. I feel really bad about it because obviously the people we're stopping are not the people who are causing the problem. So I do feel really bad about it. We're stopping people going to work, seeing friends or families, even potentially going to hospital to see loved ones. But we're out of options. We are out of options. Everything's been tried, and everything has failed. People have been protesting for 30 years. It's ignored. And now we have 3 to 4 years to determine the future of humanity. I'm not saying that the world's going in 3 to 4 years. I'm saying we've got 3 to 4 years to stop setting off irreversible chain reactions that will be outside of human control.
And just a final thought on your own situation. I mean, do you have support from the people you work with? Do you have support from friends in what you do?
Well, yes, all my friends are very supportive. They just wish that it was somebody else who was doing this and not me. But there is nobody else doing this. There's about 100 people doing this out of 68 million people in the UK. I wish there were more people doing it, but there isn't. So,
and if it means cyclical jail terms, so be it.
So be it. It is what it is. At the end of the day, in decades to come, when the climate is breaking down and crops are failing around the world globally, I will not regret any of it.
All right, Joshua, thank you for talking to me today. Joshua Smith, a bricklayer from Manchester who's part of the Insulate Britain campaign. He's determined. I presume the others are determined as well. So what will it mean if we just see cyclical jailing, routine jailing of protesters such as these? You okay with that? I must say I'm not okay with it. I think there's got to be, surely, a more constructive way to go about things than this, on both sides, actually. So your thoughts? It seems petty to me to jail them. What about you? 0345 606